A mosque attack in Afghanistan killed at least 5 people in the most serious strike by militants since the American withdrawal. The Taliban said it happened near the gates of a mosque in Kabul on Sunday. At the same time, inside, a memorial service was underway for the mother of the Taliban's chief spokesperson. The Taliban says it arrested 3 people they say were connected to this attack. Taliban's takeover and the Afghanistan humanitarian crisis is going to be front and center among the world's leaders at the United Nations. With us tonight to discuss the most pressing issues of today and our future is former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. He's also the author of Resolved, Uniting Nations in a Divided World. Mr. Secretary General, thank you for being here again. Afghanistan is in a seemingly quick downward spiral right now. If you were still UN Secretary General today, what would you be doing at this moment to help the Afghan people? What, I guess, can be done?
Well, that's a hypothetical question. I'm no longer Secretary General, and there is no possibility. But as a former Secretary General who has been very heavily and closely engaged, at least 10 years, with Afghanistan government leaders, the sudden collapse of Afghanistan government under the hands of the Taliban, this intolerable, unacceptable human rights abuses and killing people and treating women and girls was just really heartbreaking. I have been engaged as a Korean diplomat since I was very young. I was in charge with Afghanistan. But as a Secretary General, Afghanistan was one of the top priority countries. I have been meeting with the former President Karzai and Ghani and many other leaders there. While working as UN Secretary General, Afghanistan was one of the top priorities as the Security Council and General Assembly also. Afghan leadership have done much, much better with the full support of the United States, European Union, and NATO. The current situation where all the norms, UN Charter, and international laws and regulations are completely abused or violated by Taliban's, particularly human rights of those women and girls, is totally unacceptable and should be condemned in the strongest possible terms by the international community. The countries like United States, European Union, NATO, and also regional powers, Iran, Pakistan, and all Central Asian countries, they must send out the strong message that they should behave as a human being and they must uphold human rights regulations.
They don't. The Taliban doesn't care. You know, like if someone sends them a strongly worded letter, I think they tear it up and throw it in the trash. You know, it's like, how can we ensure that basic human rights, as you mentioned, are observed and honored?
International community have many tools, particularly Security Council. They should be united when it comes to Afghanistan. They should send out a strong message, take sanction measures, and let them feel the pains if they do not abide by international regulation. If they behave in human way, then we cannot tolerate such a things. I hope that Secretary General use in his full power as a Secretary General, using his special envoy and use other influential countries. Again, it's very important that we must be united to send out one and unified messages to Taliban leaders. This is my strong message.
Could you take me one step further on that, Mr. Secretary General? Let's say the U.S., all of our allies, the regional area powers all say you cannot do this. Let's say we put sanctions in place, but they still have opium they can sell. That's their main source of income many times. Would you ever support a peacekeeping force going in?
That is what the Security Council has to decide. The United Nations has been maintaining a mission since 1946, as soon as the United Nations was established, and the UNICEF has been operating since 1949, and the Security Council has established UNAMA, United Nations Assistance Mission in Afghanistan, since 2002. UNAMA mission has now very much difficulty and restricted in their operations. So therefore, what is important is that international community should be really united in sending out such a strong message. Otherwise, these people, Taliban's, they are the norm breakers and notoriously norm breaking. Therefore, we must make sure that we have united. They cannot live alone. The economic situation is very terribly difficult. We are ready. United Nations Secretary General has convened an international assistance conference recently in Geneva, and he promised that the United Nations is ready to provide what they need for their lives, but they also behave as a human being in accordance with the all United Nations Charter, particularly Universal Declaration of Human Rights and all these internationally recognized rules and laws.
President Joe Biden here in the U.S. is less than a year into his term at this point. How would you evaluate his first 9 to 10 months in office, and any advice you would give him for the next 10 months?
Personally, I have been working very closely with President Joe Biden, at least 8 years during his presidency as a Secretary General, and another 2 years before that as a senator, U.S. Senator. I was Secretary General. So for 10 years, very closely, and I really admire and I respect his leadership. Now, one thing which he made a huge change from his previous President Trump is that he has set out everything right by returning to rejoining the Paris Climate Change Agreement on the very first day of his presidency. And he has also returned to WHO. It was totally unacceptable, could not understand. At the height of this pandemic crisis, United States withdrew from WHO. And while whole world are engaged to implement Paris Climate Change Agreement, the most important, most influential country, United States, has withdrawn this one. So now it seems that the multilateralism is now on track. But on track is not, it may be important, but how to care, how to nourish all this, and how to unite the international political will to make sure that multilateralism really works. That is very important at this time. I really count on President Biden's very global leadership. I sincerely hope that he will demonstrate global leadership for global peace, global security, and also human rights.
Creating unity was never easy. Here at home, we're talking about just one nation. You've done it for the whole world. We appreciate it. Former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, thank you again for joining us here on Newsy, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.